U.S. Supreme Court just denied a request to look at the NFL's concussion settlement. What that does is it ends a contentious 5-year fight between the league and former players. Settlement could be worth as much as $1 billion. That's with a B. The suit claims the league hid dangers of head trauma. Now, those who are suffering from brain injuries could receive as much as $5 million. This is also an issue when it comes to youth football, high school football, college football.
Concussions in high school football, a tough topic to tackle. According to the Institute of Medicine, 1 in 14 high school football players will suffer at least one concussion, and that risk is 60% higher than the next sport. Yet the sport remains the most popular among high school boys, with more than 1 million taking part in the game. In the latest issue of the medical journal Pediatrics, some leading experts are weighing in on the question of whether or not high school football should be banned. One of the experts, Dr. Louis Margolis, writes that high school football should be banned until, quote, we can be assured that it does not have long-term detrimental consequences. He notes football causes more harm to the brain than any other sport. But another expert does not think banning the sport is the right solution. Having, quote, a licensed athletic trainer on site, a physician who is knowledgeable about concussions at every football game, and a clear return-to-play policy.
I think just having a discussion at the schools, how are we going to approach the injury and making sure that we're dealing with it at a very appropriate level and that we are taking the injury seriously.
All right, Doug, what did this ruling mean as it relates first to the settlements?
Well, so the ruling was they were looking at a decision of a lower court where there were players that said that the settlement is going to benefit the people that are hurt now, and the people that aren't hurt who will be diagnosed in the future, they're going to be at some sort of disadvantage. The court agreed with the initial judges, saying that the settlement as agreed to will compensate the people, the entire group. That's essentially what it said. So basically, and people have to realize that the NFL did have defenses in this case. Because of this ruling, because of the funding, the players will not have to go and prove that their condition is because of their playing football. And it sounds kind of crazy, but that would be a trial, and they would have to go through it. Experts would come on and say, well, maybe it wasn't in the NFL, maybe it was when you were in college or a youth league, so they don't have to do that anymore. And the players want to get the money now because they want to be able to have the benefit of it.
So this doesn't put a period to it. This is a comma, because there could be more suits and settlements down the road, right?
Right. Well, they're looking at all the players from the past up to now. They know the universe of people that are covered in the lawsuit. There's a small group that opted out, and this judge, Brody, will have to decide what to do with those people that opted out.
Okay, say Jimmy, who I know most people would imagine played linebacker in the NFL, okay? Mm-hmm. Jimmy's playing now. 2 years from now, he retires, and he's got concussion. The concussion symptoms have led to traumatic brain injury and all the rest. He can still bring a case, right?
Well, he's going to be covered in this settlement. They're going to evaluate. That was one of the points of contention that they had. The group was saying, well, listen, you have parameters from which you're going to compensate people, but those are too tight. We want it looser, if a person has not been diagnosed with something, but they have a certain... Okay,
so now I'm a
Can you
high
give
school...
me $5 million?
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
Finish the situation.
I'm a high school now.
Yeah.
This case, I got to figure, especially with the warnings coming from the medical community, I can do all the baseline tests at the beginning of the season. I can teach the proper techniques on how to tackle and everything else. I got to imagine, for me to get insurance, my premiums are going through the roof, and people are far more aware of this and more likely to bring a lawsuit, not 20 years later when I'm 40-something, but while I'm in high school, that the school put me in an unsafe environment. I got to imagine, Doug, youth football, high school football, forget about even college or pros, this is a whole new world.
Yeah, well, the basis of this lawsuit was that the NFL had information. They knew that these injuries were occurring and they were hiding it. At some point, everybody that's playing football is aware of the dangers, and they're kind of saying, I'll take the risk of these dangers. Now, the question that I have would be, if you're an underage person, a minor, can you waive that? Can your parents say, no, you can play?
I just remember when I went skydiving, they can have me sign all I want.
Right.
Like, I waive all rights. But if my chute don't open and I hit the ground here, there's a lawsuit and I'm winning, you know? So my point is, you can sign all the waivers you want, but at the end of the day, whether they're minor and their parents approve or whatever else, they have a right or an expectation that you're not going to put me into an environment where I'm not going to potentially be able to use my brain.
But you're entering that environment. And the only issue, you know, when you go skydiving, if your chute doesn't open, you're not waiving that. But I have to think that what's going to come now is some form of legal waivers, because it's no longer we don't know of the risk. The risk
Jimmy,
is now
there's
now
5
there.
million holes I can poke through this. I have my kid play Pop Warner, right? The other kid comes running in helmet first. Did the coach properly train him? You told me that all the people are going to be properly trained. Are you going to now say some 9-year-old in Pop Warner, right, does or doesn't know proper technique? Did he have the right helmet? What about if the kid didn't have the chin strap? I mean, these are a million things that everyone's looking out for, and there's no indemnification for this. It's going to clear everybody. My point is, it becomes unaffordable. You have school districts throughout our viewing area that are barely making ends meet. The premiums go through the roof. Could the consequence be that in large swaths of this country, football just becomes unaffordable?
Well, you could perceive that happening. I mean, if it's uninsurable and the school districts are not willing to endure the risks of lawsuits, they could just do away with programs.
Well, I tell you, if I didn't have you two strapping bucks, the amount of attorneys that I found who specialize now in just this niche tells you that there is a whole new world now as it relates to this. Okay, coming up next. People who can pay up can stay out of jail. I want you to process that. What it's called is diversion, and it happens a whole lot more than you think, and a lot of people are saying it's anything but fair.